This year, in 2026, we celebrate America's 250th anniversary, and it got me thinking about our own history right here in Souderton. This is a place where generations of people have built their lives, their businesses, and their families. Your home, the land that it sits on, the businesses you enjoy, and the institutions you rely on, they didn't just pop up in the time that you've needed them, and I think we take for granted those that came before us that made our community what it is today. And so the goal of this podcast is to interview Souderton Legends, just some of the people that made significant contributions to our community in their time. For some listeners, this may be a walk down memory lane. And for many, I hope it serves as a reminder and an inspiration to do good in your community in your time here. I'm Mayor of Souderton, Dan Yoakum, and welcome to the Souderton Legends Podcast. And today we have two legends with us, and this is a specifically important interview today because this year the Perseverance Volunteer Fire Company celebrates its 125th anniversary, having been founded in 1901. For 70 of those years, our guest Richard Shoemaker has been a member, an active volunteer with the company, and for another 30 plus of those years, Jim Gallagher has served the organization, including in various roles, including president. In their decades of firefighting and community service, these two men have seen it all, and that's why I'm so honored to have them here today as Souderton Legends. So we welcome Richard Dick Shoemaker.
Hello there.
Hi.
And Jim Porky Gallagher.
It was 50 years.
50 years. I said 30 as the president, but I guess I was underselling you. First, I have to say that when we say Porky, that's a term of endearment, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. For listeners that don't want, I don't want them to think anything negative. All right, gentlemen, well, welcome. Thank you for your many, many decades of service. The fire company is an incredible organization, and you two have played a huge role in it.
I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah.
I can say I enjoyed almost every minute of
it. And we can talk about all the good and some maybe bad times. But to start, I thought it would be good to start with the person that's been there longer than anybody. Dick, you're currently the longest serving member in the company, correct?
I believe so, yes.
What year did you start at the Perseverance?
I joined in September 1955.
1955. 71 years ago.
It'll be 71 years in September, yes.
That is truly amazing. And Jim, what year did you start in the fire service?
August 1975.
In Souderton?
Yes, in Souderton. Okay. Shuey was already a life member.
Yeah, a life member being somebody that's already served for 20 years.
Right.
That's correct. Yeah.
You've served for 50 years, and Dick was already a life member when you got there. That's pretty amazing. So I want to hear, starting with Dick here, in 1955, what was it like? You were at a different firehouse. You were right here on Main Street, Souderton, right?
That's correct, right across, which is now Montgomery Theater. So
tell us about that building.
Well, it was a unique building on the second floor where the kitchen was and where our meetings were held and everything. There was actually a pole that you could slide down. If you were on the second floor and the fire whistle went, you slid down that pole and get your equipment on and take off.
An old-time fireman's pole.
Right.
And what was the building like? I mean, where the trucks were in the truck bays?
The trucks, we had to park them like too deep because there was only room for maybe two trucks at a time, and so we would be too deep, and you'd have the number one truck first, naturally, and the ladder truck or the so forth would be in the back because I would go after the first truck.
Yeah. Before we get even further into that, I'd love to know from both of you. Well, you're both, I would say you're from here, but tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you got interested in the fire service in the first place.
Well, I was born and raised 308 Washington Avenue, right here in Souderton, so that wasn't too far away.
And what year were you born?
In 1933.
That makes you how old right now?
92.
Wow, you do not look it or act it. That's very impressive.
But I was interested in the fire company because my father was a fireman. And when that whistle would go, he would take off and up Washington Avenue down into the hollow here to get on the truck. And he'd come back with some of his stories and so forth. So when I turned 21, I thought, well, I can join now. So I joined the fire company then that September. I was a fireman for a year before Uncle Sam called and wanted me for 2 years. But there's 2 years I was in Texas. Why the fire company kept in touch with me and kept me up to date what was going on and so forth. And then when I came out, naturally I got active in the company again, and I started out learning to drive the different trucks. And I could drive them because the business I was in, I did delivery trucks. So I drove the trucks, and then I got to be an engineer. And in those days, the engineer would take care of the truck. You had to change the oil and keep it running in good condition, keep it clean and so forth. And
what were some of those early trucks? Like, what was the first fire truck that you rode on?
Oh, gosh. What's the old one we still have, Porky?
The 49 Seagrave.
Yeah.
You were still riding the 1949 Seagrave. That was what you were fighting fires with.
Well,
it was new then.
Right. Yeah.
It's an antique now. Wow, that's hard to believe. So, and that was an open back. I mean, now the fire service is totally different. That was an open back truck. Jim, you were probably riding those too, right?
Well, I didn't ride the 49. I'm not quite that old. But when I joined, we were still riding on the back of the fire trucks at the time.
Yeah, how we used to get on and put it on our equipment on. We'd throw the equipment up on the body of the truck and climb up on the back of the truck while we were going to the fire. We'd be putting our equipment on.
Wow.
Now you can't do that. You're an enclosed truck now, and you have all your equipment there. But
yeah. And even before you got on the truck, I'm fascinated to know, how did you even know, like, what was the signal? Now it's all over your cell phone. But back then, how did you know that there was a fire, and what was it like when you got to the station then?
Well, we actually only had, at that time, when I joined, we had 4 fire whistles. One out on East Broad Street, and one on Chester Street, and one at the firehouse, and one at the old Farm Bureau building. Those were if I recall, those were the 4 signals we had. And then when you get here, you found out what the fire was because you didn't know where the whistle went. So
yeah, that's an intimidating kind of thing. Now you kind of know not that you know what you're ever getting into, but you kind of know what to expect. Then the whistle went off and you went.
Right.
And that was that. Then you found out what you were doing when you got there.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And Jim, I'd ask you the same question about where did you grow up and how did you get involved in the fire service?
Well, I was born in Baltimore, and we moved here when I was 17. And actually, I was a person of interest in a major fire at Shelley and Fenstermacher Lumber Company. We only lived here a couple weeks, and the fire whistle went off, and I saw these flames out the 2nd-story window, and I had to go to that fire. Well, Paul Stout was our fire chief at the time and fire marshal, and he had a report of kids running from the building. So he had the photographer take pictures of the whole crowd, and the fire company officer sat down, and they pointed at all the kids, and I know this one, I know that one. Nobody knew me. I just moved here. So Paul Stout thought, he had me. He went to the school, and they said, he just moved in. But as it turned out, it wasn't me. And I was so impressed, I wanted to join the fire company. But I couldn't because I was only 21. So Paul turned around and got me to join the ambulance.
Oh, okay.
And then I graduated, went in the military, served 4 years, came out, and Paul contacted me and I joined the fire company in 75.
I just handed you a picture of that Shelley's fire. That was you saw that live and in person. I know this is an audio recording,
that was a fire, right?
Yeah, right.
Yep, I saw that and I was just impressed.
Yeah, well, back then, talk about that being impressed. Back then, there was a waiting list to join, I think.
Yes. Back then, if you were 21, there was a waiting list to get into the fire company because they only accepted 70 active members at the time and stuff, and they had a waiting list, back then. Now, we don't have a waiting list. We're begging for volunteers.
Yeah, so that's so true. It's like 70 active members. Can you believe if we had 70 active members today? I mean, the world has changed for sure.
Yes, it has, very much.
Yeah. And was there a waiting list when you were first getting involved?
When I was?
Yeah.
Yes, I believe they, like I said, they had, or Jim said they had 70 members, but I don't believe they had the full amount at the time because I had no trouble getting in.
Well, I think your dad was the president of the fire.
He was president at the time, and Norman Patzell he was the secretary. Norman was a good friend of ours, so Patzell, so.
Do you know what year your father joined the Souderton Fire Company?
I could not tell you that now.
Well, it had to be in the 30s.
Yeah, he was a fireman all my life, so.
Wow, I mean, that is amazing that you are basically almost, not quite, but almost back to the very beginning of the fire company. A shoemaker has been involved and still is today. Mm-hmm. That's pretty impressive. So I want to keep hearing about what it was like because it's right, it's different now. It's more regulated maybe, but then, the alarm went off, you ran, walk us through what that whole experience was like in the 50s and 60s. And Jim, when you joined too, you got to the firehouse on Main Street. And then what happened? Talk us through what it looked like, what it sounded like, what it felt like.
Well, then you would find out what the fire was, and the firemen would be coming. We had some that lived on the hillside under that just ran to the firehouse. They would all be, it was comical actually to see them all come running. And then all depending which way the fire was, we'd either have to go up Main Street or up a hill either way. And we had, I guess, in those days, some of the biggest fires were P.K. Fisher's farms. He was a big horse breeder here in the area, and it seemed he quite often had a fire. So,
over at what's now the Country Club
that's
area,
correct,
right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, when he had those famous Palomino horses.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there were fires there a lot, but that's a forgotten part of the history.
Well, that going to that fire is when we had one of our first accidents. The fire truck lost control and flipped over, and fortunately nobody was, injured or hurt or anything, but they just lost control going around the one turn.
Wow. Well, you weren't on that truck.
No, I was not on that truck.
Luckily, you were on the one behind it, probably. Good. Yeah. Again, what were you wearing at the time? Because that has evolved a lot, too.
Well, we would just have the coat, the heavy coat, and boots.
Hip waders, right?
Hip waders, yes.
They don't wear those anymore.
Uh-huh. No, yeah. Yeah, the whole outfit now you slip into. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
And then you were off.
We were off.
So that's like the technical side of stuff. But what I really want you both to talk about is what it really means to be, let's talk about the fun times that you had. You've spent a life in this fire company, and Jim's being shy right now, but he can tell some stories, not just about there's some things you won't want to tell, I'm sure, but you have lifelong friends from this institution, so let's talk about them. And by the way, I'll also just say that this is a Souderton Legends podcast, so a lot of the names that you spent your fire career with are gone. So let's celebrate them. Like, what are some of the people that you served with, Jim?
Well, I served with Shuey, obviously. He was one of my mentors. There was Paul Stout, Ed Hunsaker. They were mentors. Your grandfather was a big mentor of mine, Harold. And I could always tell when your grandfather was mad at me because I did something wrong, because he would always address me as Jim or Porky. But when I did something wrong, it was always James, and I knew right then I did something wrong.
Right.
But, these older guys were always good mentors. I learned a lot from a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
They were always very calm, very cool, never said anything to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
They show you how to do it the right way and stuff, and you felt good about it and stuff. I remember Paul Stout came to me because I lived right near the firehouse and asked me if I would start to drive. Because guys were showing up at the firehouse, and this was the new firehouse on 2nd Street. And guys would show up, but no driver. So I lived 3 houses down. So I said, okay, I'll become a driver. The very first call I had as a driver was a house that had a gas explosion on Wall Avenue. I was so proud of myself. I pulled around, got out of the truck, pulled the tank, opened it. Guys pulled the hose off. Paul come over real nonchalantly, put his arm around me, said, you did a good job, but you forgot something. I said, what'd I forget? He said, you forgot to put it in pump gear.
Oops.
Which wasn't funny at the time, because everybody's rushing around and stuff. But afterwards, it was kind of comical.
Yeah.
About that, doing that. But we've had a lot of good times. We played a lot of practical jokes. Unfortunately, these are things that they don't do today. Sure. Everything is very, very serious. Back then, everything was very serious. When that fire whistle went off, it was serious, no matter what it was.
Right.
But the practical jokes afterwards and the fun we had afterwards was always a lot of fun.
Any that you can share in a recorded interview?
Well, we took, Paul Stout bought a little car one time, one of these little small cars. We thought it would be funny to put it in the firehouse and turn it sideways between 2 walls. And we went home. We have no idea how he got it out of there, but we went home and left it like that. Mm-hmm. But, we used to play practical jokes. And
how about Marine 74?
Marine 74? That was Ed Staley. He was, Ed passed away a year ago. But he was captain of our fire police.
Forever.
Yeah. And he called me one night when they were going out to assist the police for the night before Halloween for spook patrol. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, I'll ride with you. Well, we got on the other side of town, and his wife called him and said, somebody's in the garage. We went right back to his garage. Somebody stole his boat. He turned around and said, I'm not going to call the police. I'll call them when I get done. Well, after we got done, we went back to the firehouse. And lo and behold, there was that boat sitting in the firehouse with a great big sign said Marine 74 on it. And stuff. Well, everybody got a big laugh and a big joke out of it. But Ed was very shrewd. He just looked at me and said, watch. And he said, hey, you guys, somebody's got to take that boat back to my garage. He said, because I got that new pickup and I don't have a hitch on it yet. And one of the young guys hollers, hey, Benny, back your truck up. We know it'll fit. And he just looked at me and said, well, I know one of them. But he was shrewd like that.
There were some, they were like the old guys when I got there, but yes, there were some very, very larger than life characters in that fire company.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. There was Ziggy Landis. He was a character and stuff, and he had a home up in the mountains, and he was down in the firehouse one night talking about how he had this new heating and air conditioning system installed that he could call up there on the telephone before he left Souderton and turn it on. So it would be nice and cool when they got there, or nice and warm in the wintertime. I asked him, I said, how do you do that? He showed me how to do it. Well, for the next 4 weeks, he always left around 4 o'clock on a Friday. I'd wait till 5:30 and I'd call in and I would set it at something else. Like in the wintertime, I'd set it down to like 60 degrees. In the summertime, I'd set it up to 85. He had the guy in to look at it because he thought it was broke. After 4 weeks, I thought I better tell him the truth.
Well, these guys were they were your friends, but it's more than that.
Oh, yeah. There's friendships that'll last forever.
Right. Got to last, correct. And how we used to, if somebody would go on vacation, we'd get a for sale sign and stick it in the front yard. Many times that was done.
Right. Anytime somebody's in the hospital.
Oh, yeah. When they were in the hospital, we used to take a bouquet. And this was started by Paul Stout, I believe. He would take a bouquet of flowers up, dead flowers, that he would go to a cemetery, and he'd get a get well card from the 99 members of the Vauxhall Volunteer Fire Company, which didn't exist. And he would give them to the candy striper, and they would argue with him, but they would take him up to the room and put him in. And all the comments the nurses used to make were unbelievable.
Yeah.
But everybody got a good laugh out of it.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's really important because, you're talking, you see some serious stuff when you're in the volunteer fire company.
You do.
So when we can talk about that because I want to talk about some of the significant events that you've been a part of. But I think it's also important to know that you balance that with a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, we had great times. We'd have steak night, or clam bake night, and just get-togethers like that, and we would have a great time. Even like at our, we used to have a picnic, and I remember this is when they used to be up at Carahart's Grove yet up near Tylersport. On a Sunday morning, we had to come here and load the trucks up with chairs and tables and stuff, take them up there and set them up. But we had a great time, people don't have time for that anymore.
And when you were having great times again, you were in like the basement of the Main Street building having those dinners, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
That's a long gone. I don't know how many members are left that would have even been a part of that Main Street firehouse.
Well, when one of the pictures we have, I'm sure Jim has it too, is the group taken at that firehouse. And if you go down that line, there's very, very few of them left. So,
they have, when you walk into our firehouse now, the addition, we have a picture of maybe 25 firemen, individual headshots of firemen. And just the other night, I was looking at it, and out of those 25, Shuey's the only living member.
Wow. Well, you joined young and you stuck with it forever. I just handed you the program for the opening of the new firehouse, which is 1966, right?
Uh-huh.
Is that correct?
Yes.
That's when the fire company moved from Main Street to 2nd Street. Do you remember those times,
Oh,
Dick?
we had a lot of fun building that firehouse. Ray Hess actually put the frame up, but then the rest of it, or a lot of it, we as members did it. And in fact, your grandfather was one of the big instigators of doing this ourselves,
I'm sure save a buck.
He would bring things up from the store. Like we'd all wear a big old-fashioned tie and one of these old hats, but that's what we would wear. And then we'd be painting and doing different things, just having a great time doing all that.
Yeah. Yeah, he always said that my grandfather, Harold, was a life member. I think he was the first to get the 70-year
that's correct.
award.
He was the first to get to 50 also.
And Dick was maybe the second. I don't know that there's been anybody else.
There's been 3 people that have had 50 active years. We have a lot of 50-year members.
Yeah.
But the first 3 was Harold, your grandfather, Shuey, and Paul Stout.
Wow.
And they're also the only 3 that have had 70 active years.
70 years. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I have for the 2 people that are going to listen to this, this interview means a lot to me because I grew up in that firehouse. I am a member and I'm not an active. I'm the lowest possible. If I wasn't the mayor, I would be kicked out. But I care so much. I really do care deeply about the institution, and all the people that you were talking about are like the guys that I they were the old guys when I was growing up
Right.
that would stop over at my grandparents' house and do these same practical jokes. So, yeah. Anyway, my grandfather would say that those hats was like you got that hat if you worked hard enough at building the new building. So you knew if you didn't have one that you weren't helping very much.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we just renovated the firehouse about 6 years ago, and as we took the ceiling down in the engine bay, there spray painted on the beam was your grandfather's name. Somebody spray painted Harold Yoakum on it.
He
Up in the ceiling.
swears that it was not him.
It might not have been him because your grandfather, no matter what he did, he never wanted credit for anything.
Right. Yeah.
But I will tell you, he was very good as a treasurer. You didn't spend money in that firehouse unless he approved it.
Right.
And the old saying that he used to say, and we used to hear it at least 10 times a year, don't leave the lights on. We don't own stock in the electric company.
That's right. Yes. Oh, I heard that one many times too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But you really did. I mean, Dick, do you remember why they wanted to move from Main Street to 2nd Street?
Well, I think this was a small place here, and getting in and out, there was more traffic. We had trolleys running at that time.
Yeah, true.
And they just felt we had the property up there. They bought that some years before. Why not build up there? So
yeah. Mm-hmm. And then there it's been ever since 1966, renovated a couple times.
Right.
And in the last renovation, so okay, well we'll cut that part out because I don't want to talk about the last renovation. But you both also in your time, not only have you served as active firemen, but you've served as leadership, correct?
Correct.
Dick, do you want to talk about that?
Jim has more so than I, but I was, as a firefighter, I worked my way up to be Paul's first assistant chief. Mm-hmm. And I was on many committees, bylaw committee. Every year I got put onto the committee for membership, for election and so forth. So, I served on quite a few different things.
And you were the assistant chief under Paul Stout, who was really legendary. I mean, he was the chief for, I don't know how long.
20 years.
20 years, and he was the fire marshal for
longer than that.
Yeah. Talk about your memories of Paul Stout.
Well, they are all wonderful memories. He was really great in instructing you and teaching you, according to what kind of fire it was. Well, he would be right there to help you and instruct you what to do and so forth. And I give him lots and lots of credit for helping me get through what I did. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
And even from the very beginning, like the Hellers, Henry Heller, he was one of the first chiefs, and Paul Ruth, they all were very helpful in teaching you and instructing you the right way. So,
And Jim, you obviously have been in a leadership role in that fire company for a really long time. Do you want to tell us about that?
Well, I served on the board of directors, I'm going to assume about 38, maybe 40 years. 27 of them as president, and I served as treasurer. I served as financial secretary when your grandfather was treasurer, and I learned a lot from him. I learned how to squeeze a penny, that's for sure.
That's for sure, that's right.
I served as vice president for a year. I did step down at the end of 22. Figured I'd served my time as president after 27 years. But then our treasurer stepped down in 25, and nobody wanted to do the job. So I said, I'll step up and I'll do the treasurer's job. Mm-hmm. But I do have a young fellow now that's financial secretary that I'm teaching him everything.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll continue to go on.
Yeah. Yeah, you taught me how to be the financial secretary too, but I quickly bailed. No, but that's how you've seen 27, let's say 30 years as the president. You've certainly seen a lot. You've guided that fire company through modernization and renovations and buying trucks.
Well, I like to think so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, in that 27 years, we did go through a big renovation, and we have replaced every one of our trucks.
And let's talk about the trucks. I have a picture here again. I know this is an audio recording, but buying a new truck is a big deal for a fire company. So there's just a couple examples that maybe will spark memories about some of the old trucks that have been a part of your life. Can you talk about some of the significant fire trucks that have served Souderton?
Well, the one was the 1970 snorkel that we had. That was in the fire company when I joined and stuff, and I drove that truck for many years and stuff, and then we replaced it in 99. The truck was almost 30 years old at the time. And that was a nice truck, but when they bought it, we were able to reach about 90% of the roof of every building in our district. But then over the years, because zoning laws changed, there was a lot of places we couldn't reach anymore. Mm-hmm. So we bought a 100-foot tower in 99.
I think that's on the back of that. Oh, no, that's the snorkel on the back.
Yeah, that's the back. Yeah. The other truck that you showed me the picture of, that's a 1963 Seagrave. And that truck was still in operation with that.
Because buying a new fire truck for a fire company is a big deal. The community, maybe a little bit less so now, but the community used to really get behind that.
Yeah, we're lucky because our community still does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you used to have like housings and presentations.
They used to have parades for a new truck. We had housings. All the area chiefs would push the truck into the building, for good luck and stuff. But now you buy a truck, you back it into the firehouse, and it's said and done.
But at the time, I mean, that's like a bygone tradition.
Yes, it is.
Right.
It is. There was a lot of traditions back then. There was more traditions before me. I mean, they used to have, in Shuey's era, they used to have traditions to feed the horses. right, Shuey?
Right?
Yeah, well,
not
quite that old, but close. What were some of those? What are some things that that you did then that maybe you don't do anymore, if you can think of any?
Well, one thing that I was thinking about, it was when I joined the fire company, the ladies auxiliary used to have a chicken dinner for the community. And we would go out to the different farms. There were farms in the area at that time. And we would collect chickens. If the farmer had chickens, he'd say, yeah, I'll give you 3 chickens. Sometimes you had to go in and catch them. Sometimes they were given to you. Or they would give you a bag of potatoes or red beans or something. Bring it back, and that's what we would use for the chicken dinner. Then.
Wow.
And then from the chicken dinner, then we went to the Sunday breakfast that we had in March and September. And we had that for a number of years. So they were good things and good fundraisers, and you had a lot of fun doing all those things together.
And that those breakfasts were legendary for a long time too.
Right.
We don't do them anymore, but there are other fundraisers that still get done.
At the end of the chow line, there was Shuey cutting up that ham.
That's right.
Every breakfast, she would be up there cutting up the ham.
Yep, and Barry Shoemaker handing out orange juice. So not Barry Shoemaker, Barry Rosenberg.
Yep,
Barry, yeah.
Yep. What are some of those? That's another big part of the fire service is fundraising. So what are some interesting things you've done over the years that the community has really gotten involved with on that front?
Well, you had the breakfast that was, when Ed Hunsaker was president, he used to tell everybody, we got a breakfast coming up. unless your name's in the obituaries, you're expected to be there.
Hey, let's talk about Ed Hunsaker for a second. Because he was another, he's a Souderton legend. He was on Borough Council forever, but it was really well known in the fire company. Talk about him.
Well, Ed was he was a tough individual.
Yeah.
But everything he did was always in the best interest of the fire company, no matter what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And he was president for 20 years before I was, and stuff. And he, I remember Ed came to me. Paul Stout had announced that he was going to step down as chief, and they were not going to step down together. So Paul said he was going to step down after 20 years. Ed stayed on as president for 22. Mm. And I used to get in trouble in my younger days. You learn you learn something new and you got to buy it right away and stuff. And Ed had some conversations with me at times, but there were always, the type of conversations that was for the best of the fire company and stuff. And one night he talked to me when Paul said he was going to step down in a couple of years, and Ed asked me about running for a line officer's position. Well, I didn't want to be chief. I didn't want to be an assistant chief. All my training has all been on the financial end of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I told Ed, I said, I really don't want to be on the operational side like that. I just want to be a firefighter. And Ed asked me what did I want to do in the fire company, because he thought I'd be a good leader. And I just looked at Ed and said, I want your job. And I told him when he's ready to step down, I'll run for his position, but not until and stuff. And, when he decided to step down, then I ran for office and I became president.
And what year would you say roughly that was?
Well, I became president in 89. But there was, in the years after that, after 14 years, I'd stepped down for 3 years. I just needed a rest.
So really, so the succession of presidents of the Souderton Fire Company were you, and before that was Ed Hunsaker, and before that was your father, right, Harry Shoemaker, because I think Henry Shoemaker, because I think in that book with the dedication, I think he was the president of the fire company when the new building was dedicated, which was 66. Mm-hmm. So he was probably the president in 69 when Ed took it, and then you took it 20 years after that. Mm-hmm. Oh,
we've been lucky in our fire company because we've had pretty strong leadership all along, and it was leadership that was there a long time. Mm-hmm. So you didn't have people. Every time an officer changed, they wanted to do it their way.
Right.
We didn't have a lot of that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To do it that way.
Okay, now I want to talk about the thing that maybe people are most interested to hear about the fire company, which are some fires that you've been a part of, or emergencies in general. It's not just fires. Jim, you served in the ambulance, and I think probably Dick, you must have. At the time, it was more intermingled. You drove an ambulance before too, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. Just the emergency services. I pulled a couple photos of some fires if we need to jog our memory. But Dick, thinking all the way back to 1955 to today, do you have any Souderton specific fires that you remember going to, or emergencies?
Well, I think my first fire I went to as a fireman was Coons Auto's body up in Telford. Mm-hmm. They had a fire up there, not a large fire, but that was my first fire I went to.
And can you remember what you were feeling at that moment?
Excited, because it was my first. But I think some of the biggest ones we remember, naturally, was the Shelley and Felsenmacher, Broad Street car shows there, the movie theater. Those are the big ones.
And tell us about it. Tell us when the Goshaw's fire, which was it was probably in the 60s.
Yeah, it was before me. Yeah. Well, I can tell you when it was. It was I believe it would be 1972, because the story that I heard from Ed Hunsaker was they had just taken delivery of the snorkel, and the snorkel wasn't even in service yet.
Oh.
And when Ed saw the fire, he said, "We're taking it."
Yeah.
And they took it anyway, even though it wasn't in service. Didn't even have a radio in it yet.
Wow.
And they used to, and from what Ed told me, they used the snorkel at that fire, and it really served well to prevent it from taking out the whole block.
Right.
Yeah, because for listeners, describe where Goshaw's Jewelry was. Dick, do you want to tell?
Okay, where the movie theater is now,
On West Broad Street.
West Broad Street, it was about the third building down on the same side as the movie theater.
So if that got bad, would have wiped out the whole block.
Well, a lot of it was the apartments on the second floor. A lot of it was, smoke and water damage and so forth. And, but I remember that fire in particular because I was had some friends there. We were having my 40th birthday party, and the fire whistle went, and I looked out. I lived on Fairview Avenue. Looked out the kitchen window, and I said, "Oh my gosh, goodbye, everybody!" And off I went.
Right, you could see the smoke all the way from up there.
Oh yeah, smoke and fire. Yeah.
Yep. So that Goshaw's fire is still one of the more significant ones in town.
Right.
And talk a little bit more about the Shelley's fire, which you mentioned at the start of this.
Yeah, the Shelley fire. I remember going down there. Now, I'd only lived here 2 weeks, so I knew nothing about the town. Mm-hmm. I knew it was a volunteer fire company because I lived in volunteer fire company areas before. But I remember parking my car down on Broad Street and walking up Franklin, thinking to myself, that's one big house. I didn't know it was a lumber company in the middle of the residential section and stuff to get there. And boy, that was a fire. But that was probably the biggest. That was before I became a firefighter. But, we've had the Zwingli Church fire.
Oh, yeah. Well,
we were there all night long.
Right. Sure, yeah, that was a huge one.
I mean, that was a huge fire, too. The Shelley and Fenstermacher fire in 1988 up in Percy, that was a huge fire. We were there for it seemed like forever, up with that. And that was one of the last big fires I think we had where we had to snorkel and stuff to do that. And, the thing with the snorkel is once you were up in the air, you were there. Because there was no way down unless you came down. There was no ladder on it and stuff. And if we were up for a long time, they would feed us, but we had to send a bucket over the side with a 100-foot rope. They'd fill the bucket up and we'd pull it back up, and that's how we ate.
Yeah, those were some big ones. And Dick, do you have any other memories? And there's one, another big one. I think was his Nibs.
Oh yes, that's correct.
Were you at that one?
Yeah, that was down there on the Washington Avenue. That was a big fire, right? So,
and I think it would be interesting to hear, you take it for granted because it's second nature to you. You've been doing this for 50 and 70 years, but talk about what it means, especially back then when you were racing towards it and you got there, and then what? Like, what would listeners be interested in hearing about what it is to fight fires, especially way back then? Well,
as you're getting there, then naturally the chief or assistant chiefs are already, at that time I was not an assistant chief, they are making plans and where to hook up for your, what hydrant to use, and so forth. They got water up there, and when you get up there, then they try to attack the main source of the fire so you could keep it from spreading. And more or less your chiefs would direct you. We have very good chiefs and assistant chiefs, and they would direct you what to do. So,
and a lot of times you knew what to do before you got there, because with the chief getting on the scene first, he would radio back to the truck and say, "I want this truck to do this truck to do that, this truck to do this." So you knew which hydrant to pick up and where to lay hose at. You knew ahead of time. But everybody's heart is pumping. Your adrenaline's rolling. wondering what it's going to be like when you get there. Mm-hmm. It's...
And one thing that, especially like a driver for a volunteer fire company, I was always floored. My grandfather knew every road and every direction in a 10-mile radius because he had, I guess, you just got the address and you had to know how to get there,
right?
Even if it was outside of town.
Uh-huh.
Well, they had some fun instructions back then. They don't have the technology you had today. You just had to know where you were going. Mm-hmm. I remember one time we came in with a report of a barn fire. And I came in, jumped in a truck, got it started. A couple guys came in and I asked, does anybody know where Wild Road is at? I lived on Wild Avenue, and there was no barns on Wild Avenue. And I remember Harvey Blank, God rest his soul, came running in with his Dutchy accent. Oh, don't you know where Wild Road is at? It's Jake Wild Farm. Well, I didn't know Jake Wild either, and Harvey rode with me. Harvey was one of our assistant chiefs. He rode with me, and he gave me directions. There was no Wild Road. It was Jake Wild's driveway.
Oh,
okay. That he put a sign on it that said Wild Road.
Oh, okay.
And it was over where Mascaras is at now. Mm-hmm. And stuff. But they were the kind of directions you had sometimes.
Sure. Right. No GPS.
Yeah, now you jump in the fire truck and the GPS is telling you where it's at.
Right.
Which is a good thing because this area has been expanding. There's new roads being built.
Right.
So that is a help in today. Mm-hmm. With today, but...
And you were responding in all weather and in an open top fire truck, Dick. I mean, like if it's snowing, it didn't matter. You're still going. I'm sure you saw a lot.
Right.
And the other thing is about being a volunteer fireman, which I'm not saying I am. It's just, we live in a very generous area where people volunteer their time for a lot of things, but it's different when you are at a moment's notice, leaving your 40th birthday party, for example, leaving your bed, leaving your holiday dinners to go serve the community at a moment's notice. I think people don't understand the dedication that takes.
It takes a lot. A lot of dedication. Mm-hmm. I kid about, people ask me, why did I join the fire company? And I kid and I joke about, well, I wanted to ride a big red truck and blow the siren. Mm-hmm. But it takes a lot of, it takes a lot more dedication. I've seen a lot of young guys join the fire company because they want the excitement. Mm-hmm. Then they realize how much dedication it really takes, and they don't hang around very long. Mm-hmm. Which is a shame.
Which is a testament to 50 plus and 70 years active. You're still very active, and Dick is active too. Maybe not on the fire truck anymore, but you're active in the other important aspects of running an organization like that, like fundraising and the administration, and it's like a little business up there you got to run. And so, yeah, both of you give a tremendous amount of your life to this.
Sometimes when the fire whistle went off, and you had a group of people at your house, you were glad to go to the firehouse.
Right. Well, hanging out at the firehouse was like a rite of passage for...
Hey, it's a second home.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about that. It's a second
home.
And I'm going to give you some names here, and there's some names in the book, because I think I would be remiss if we leave this interview without really talking about some of the people who made... really remembering some of the people. So I'm going to give you this, and if it jogs any memories, it's two-sided, plus the book, plus anybody else that, you remember as significant. Here, Dick, there's one with my grandpa that I really liked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we pulled that horseless cart all over town.
That's them in a parade.
Yeah,
pulling a cart, and those were people before you. That was. There's a photo that they're looking at to jog some memory that includes Dick's father, So that was before your time. But
this picture here looks like it's probably the board of directors. And most of them were before my time. But the ones I remember that were still active and still in this picture was Ed Hunsaker and Paul Stout and Vince Pulley, Jake Ruth, Paul Gerhardt. You know, those, I believe they're all passed away now. The ones I know are all passed away.
Right. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
There you go, Shelly.
we can edit this part out, but I just thought
Yeah, they're most all passed on.
I think they are all passed on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're the longest serving member. Other names I wrote down just to jog some memories are Jacob Ruth. He was the chief when. Do you remember Jacob Ruth?
Right. Oh yeah, he lived right there on Ridge Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Jake Ruth and I, the first house my wife and I bought was on Ridge Avenue, 2 houses down from Jake. And Jake and I used to run to the firehouse. And, you know, because it wasn't that far. I had half a block, he had about 2 houses. But Jake and I, that fireworks would go off and we would race to see who got to the firehouse first.
Do you know about his hat? With the red.
Because Jake and I used to race all the time like that. And Jake was a lot older than I was, but he used to win a lot. But I used to always tell it's because he had a head start. And one year at the banquet, so I could beat Jake, they gave me a Radio Shack helmet with the flashing red light and siren on it. And I was not going to be outdone. I set that hat next to the chair where I had my clothes because I used to put my clothes, stack them up on a chair exactly the way I put them on so I could get dressed faster and get out. And I put that hat there, and I put that hat on that first call we had, and I ran down the street with that red light and siren.
On your head.
Yes, I did.
Right.
And I wore it in a fire truck. I remember, I forget where we were going, but we passed the intersection, and Kenny Schatz was one of our fire police.
Shotzi.
Yeah, Schatzy. And he was on the corner, had traffic all stopped, and I was driving. I stuck my head out the window so he could see that red light and stuff flashing. He had the funniest look on his face. When I looked in the rearview mirror, he was just laughing.
Mm-hmm. And Shotzi is a good example of another thing that's interesting in the Souderton Fire Company is generational emergency service participants, because Shotzi's family continued on.
Yes, his daughter is a life member of our fire company. His son-in-law, who's passed away, was life member of our fire company.
And husbands and wives, you know, Dick, your wife is not in this interview, but she could be because she's been involved for 70 years too. Well, pretty close to it. Yeah, talk about the families that that have been significant over time. The Stouts were...
Well, it takes your family. You have to get a lot of support. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of support from your family. You know, because you get up, like Shu, his 40th birthday. Mm-hmm. He got up and left.
Right.
You know?
Or in the middle of the night. You know.
Yeah. Many times.
Middle of the night, you know, I'd jump up out of bed, I'd get dressed real quick, and my wife would just say, make sure you lock the door. Yeah.
But there's lots of families like your own, Dick, that you serve because your father served. And talk about other families that are important to the Souderton Fire Company that are like that. Like,
we had the Hellers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Hellers, are quite a few of them, yeah.
Yeah, they had Donnie Heller. Donnie was a life member. Johnny was a life member. They were brothers.
Moppy
Heller was their uncle. He was a life member. Henry was their father, right, Shuey?
Yeah.
He was a life member. He was chief for a while. And then they had a younger brother, and I forget his name, but he was a member of the fire company, but I don't think he was a life member. Mm-hmm. But the fire companies had a lot of members like that. Family.
Right. I just think about the Stouts, Paul, Ray, Larry. I mean, generations of...
Right.
Yeah, well, you had Paul Stout and Ray Stout. They're brothers. Ray Stout's son, Ray Jr., he's a life member now of our fire company. He served as president for a year. Driver, firefighter, served on committees and stuff. You had Jake Ruth, his one son belonged to the fire company until he moved out of the area. And a lot of sons joined because of their, fathers. And they just had that fire company in their blood.
The cells, I think the cells were involved.
Well, we have a couple of them now. We have Chris Koonsman. He's a life member. Both of his sons are members of the fire company now. In fact, his one son is financial secretary. He's the one that I conned into, or I'm sorry, asked to. Well, he's going to college for corporate finance. So this is right up his alley.
Right. Working for free.
Yeah, working for free. I ask people that ask me about being a volunteer fireman, and they say, well, how much do you get paid? I say, nothing.
Nothing.
Right.
You do that and you don't get paid. And people today are amazed that they do that. But small towns like Souderton and Telford, Franconia Township, a lot of the residents aren't from this area. And they don't realize what it would cost if they had to pay a fire company today.
Right.
You take the police budget and double it. And that's what it's going to cost you to have a paid fire company. So I tell people, you're far better off making a small donation to help us out than have to pay for a paid fire company.
Right.
Yeah.
Down the line. I won't mention the township name, but we have one township that
maybe far off, far away, a far away township who won't be mentioned.
But they had an argument with their fire companies a few years ago, and they decided to go paid. And right off the bat, it cost them several $1 million.
Yeah.
Just to start a paid fire company.
Right.
To do that, and they're starting to realize what it cost them to have a paid fire company.
We are lucky that the borough and the fire company and the police and the ambulance and the Goodwill is right here too.
Right. Yeah.
And Dick, the Goodwill would have started not too long before you joined.
Yeah, I was a member of that for a while also. Yeah. But.
All of them, everybody works really well together here, and it may not last forever because we certainly are far away from 70 active members on a waiting list, but it's only because of the dedicated people that still come out in those snowy middle of the night calls that allow this institution to keep going for 125 years.
And our members, the members we have now are dedicated to the fire company. They all like the excitement. If you didn't like the excitement, you wouldn't be in the fire company.
That's correct.
To do that, that's for sure. And stuff, and we'll keep that volunteer fire company as long as we possibly can. But we don't want to see it going down the same road like the ambulances did. Souderton Ambulance was always a volunteer ambulance. They all were in this area. But the volunteers dropped out. They couldn't get enough volunteers, and they ended up going paid.
Right.
A lot of the smaller ambulances just ended up combining or were bought out by larger ones. And we don't want to go that route.
This is not a topic this is not about modern stuff. So I might cut this out, but
no, that's fine.
It was hard. My grandfather was, and the Souderton ambulance was here for a long time when it wasn't working anymore. And I had to be the one to say, this isn't working anymore. That hurts me even till today.
Sure.
Right.
And people still are not understanding of that situation. But it's good VMSC serves as well now.
Yeah, they do.
But Souderton Ambulance served since, I think, 1949, something like that. And then it was a community organization, and I think that if they needed a driver, Dick, you would have just hopped in the front seat and drove to the hospital, right? It's just a different time.
Right.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that the Souderton Ambulance and the North Penn Goodwill were all started by the Souderton Fire Company. They started them, and I'm not sure when Souderton Ambulance broke off from the fire company and became their own organization, or when the Goodwill broke off. I do remember that when I was in the military, excuse me, when I was in the military, I was still a member of the ambulance, just on military leave. And when I came home, that's when the ambulance was moving from the firehouse to the garage behind the fire company, and I helped them do all the moving and helped the month that I was home, helped what I could for them to renovate that building so they could move the 2 ambulances down there that they had at the time. So I don't know exactly when they split off, but even once they split off, they were still housed in the fire company on 2nd Street.
And then they went away, and now they're back. Now VMSC is in one of the bays.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So before we wrap this up, usually I can click on this screen and see how long we're at, but I don't know, it's not working today. I want to give you an opportunity, it's both of you, but especially Dick. 70 years in this organization. I would love for you to tell us what that, what the Souderton Volunteer Fire Company has meant to you in your lifelong dedication of service to it.
It meant quite a bit to me. I really enjoyed the 70 years that I have in here. I made an awful lot of good friends that I still have today that have not passed on, unfortunately. But we had some great times together, and I really enjoy it. I just wish the younger firemen would stick it out and try to not beat my record, but at least stay with it. Don't give up just because sometimes the times are rough. I realize today, most times the men and wife have to work and they have no time. They don't have as much time. But I had a very dedicated wife that left me go get involved with whatever I wanted to. And I just wish some of the younger members the best of everything, because it means a lot to me, this fire company. I really enjoyed the whole time.
Well said. Very good. And Jim, same question. You've had a lifetime of service in this fire company. What has it meant to you?
Well, pretty much the same as it meant to Dick. My wife always supported me on this. So,
oh, Jim, anybody who's been to any kind of function with Jim knows that, it's emotional to talk about something that has meant so much.
Yes, it is. Very. My wife tells people that when the day comes I pass on, she wants to write a book, Her Days with Porky. She thinks it'll be a bestseller in a comedy. Because my wife has been a very good wife, very supportive.
And one of the best friends I had in the fire company sits right here, Porky.
Yeah. Well,
he has meant so much to me when I was building instrumental building the Reliance House for special needs children. He came across. He put in the phones, intercom systems, and everything. Came up and helped paint walls and this and that. You can't get a better friend than that. So
I'll pay you as soon as we're done here, Shuey.
No, it's so true. I mean, that is what it's all about. Is there's a lot of action that happens and you see some exciting stuff, but that's not really what it's about. It's about the brotherhood and the family.
It is. It is. Firefighters are a brotherhood, period.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you one more shot, Jim, if you want to try to eke out a memory, a walk down memory lane.
I will admit, I do get emotional, about the fire company.
Yeah, well, it means a tremendous amount, and
it has. I mean, I've learned a lot beyond firefighting. I've learned a lot. I mean, it's when we put the first edition in the firehouse, we did it ourselves, and I learned so much about construction, just watching the guys that knew how to do it, me learning how to do it and stuff. And, we made some really, really good friends for life.
Yeah.
Friends for life.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good way to wrap it up. I appreciate not only you being here today, because you are both Souderton legends, but also, of course, for your many, many decades of service, life-saving service to the volunteer fire company and to the people of Souderton. So, thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks for being here.